Right, so Tomb Raider Chronicles. Shall you play it? Shall you not play it? What's really the deal about this game? So, for me, this video is going to be somewhat particular and weird and hard to talk about, because I really want to be critical about this game, but also I will give my personal opinion towards the end of the video. So if you want to know exactly the behind the scenes of Tomb Raider Chronicles and whether or not you should play it in 26, stay tuned. So, like I was saying, Tomb Raider Chronicles is a very peculiar game to talk about, and depending on who you ask, you will hear completely different opinions. Some people genuinely love it and consider it to be one of their favorite Tomb Raider classic games, while others see it as the point where the formula had finally run out of steam. And personally, I think I stand somewhere in the middle. Before I give my opinion on the game itself and whether I think new players should still play it today, I think we need to understand what was happening behind the scenes. Because Tomb Raider Chronicles is not just another classic Tomb Raider game, it is a result of a very specific and very forced period in the Tomb Raider franchise. And honestly, I think that explains a lot. Tomb Raider became a phenomenon in '96 when the original game was released, and from that point onwards, the series became an annual event. Tomb Raider 2 came out in '97, Tomb Raider 3 in '98, and Tomb Raider 4 in '99. So by the time Chronicles was released, we were looking at the 5th main Tomb Raider game in the whole franchise, annually. And that is quite a lot. And eventually, when we think about it, this type of annual schedule release was going to become unsustainable eventually. So Core Design had accidentally, or not, created one of the most iconic video game characters of the 90s. But that success also became a trap. Tomb Raider was too commercially powerful to simply stop. But the team could not keep producing the same type of game every year forever. And at some point, the audience was going to feel the strain. And I've actually talked about this in previous videos. So this is where Tomb Raider Chronicles comes in. By 2000, the industry was changing. The PlayStation 2 was arriving, and everyone knew that the next generation of consoles would require something bigger, more ambitious, and technically different. So Core Design was already preparing for the future of Tomb Raider, which would eventually become what we all know today, Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness. Eidos still needed a Tomb Raider game for that year, so for the year of 2000. So Chronicles was created in a very difficult position. It had to keep the brand alive in the present, whilst the studio was already tired of the old formula and also trying to prepare the franchise for the future. In other words, Tomb Raider Chronicles came to be between two conflict pressures. Eidos wanted to keep Tomb Raider commercially active, but Core Design needed time to evolve the series for the PlayStation 2 era. So Core Design was split in two, as we all know. A smaller team, but made of veterans, worked on Tomb Raider Chronicles, while the remaining of the team was preparing itself for Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness. And the result is that Chronicles is not really a major evolution of the series. It is not a bold new beginning, it is not a direct continuation in the usual sense that we've seen up until this point. Consider it more like a bridge game. In the last revelation, Core Design wanted it to be the last game of the franchise, so they gave Lara Croft an heroic farewell. So how was Core Design going to fix this issue of Lara Croft being dead? Well, they used the fact that Lara Croft was presumably dead for a different approach. So Tomb Raider Chronicles opens with Lara's memorial, and then her friends gather to remember past adventures from just different points in her life. And this was actually quite a clever move from Core Design to make a new game without having to tell a full story, and whilst also Lara Croft was presumably dead. I love coffee. Instead of forcing one new big adventure, Core Design created an anthology. 4 separate stories, 4 different flavors of Tomb Raider. We have Rome, Russia, Ireland, and VCI. And from a production point of view, that makes a lot of sense. The flashback format allowed the team to revisit ideas, characters, outfits, artifacts, and concepts from Lara's past without having to move the main storyline forward too too much. It gave them a way to make another Tomb Raider game while also still preserving the big plan for the next generation title. So Core Design managed to give Eidos Interactive another Tomb Raider game. It kept Lara Croft alive, it closed the classic PlayStation era, or as it was known back then, just PlayStation 1, and it bought Core Design more time to work on the next generation. Supposedly. The problem is that players could feel the already drained and thin team working on Tomb Raider Chronicles. And don't get me wrong, Chronicles is not a broken game. It works, it has good moments, it has variety, it has that classic Tomb Raider game charm in some places. But it no longer feels surprising. So the low sales of Tomb Raider Chronicles and bad criticism was not that people suddenly hated Tomb Raider or they were fed up with it. It's just that Tomb Raider no longer felt like something fresh. By 2000, the formula had been repeated so many times that even when a game was technically competent, it could still feel tired. And the critical reception reflects that. A lot of reviews at the time did not necessarily say that Chronicles was unplayable or terrible. The criticism was more that it felt overly familiar. The old engine, the familiar controls, and again, the same old formula. And for some fans, it was still enjoyable and that's what they wanted. But for the wider market, well, it was starting to wear thin. And again, this is where we see that the reported sales actually reflect that. Chronicles appears to have sold significantly less than the earlier classic titles, which makes sense when you consider the broader context. The series was still recognizable, still important, and still commercially relevant, but it was no longer carrying the same sense of novelty that it had in the early 90s. So, as we know, by this point, Tomb Raider needed to change. Now, when it comes to the actual game, I think Tomb Raider Chronicles is fascinating because it does not feel like one complete adventure. It's completely different from all of the Tomb Raider games that we had so far. It feels more like a collection of small Tomb Raider experiences. And, well, it does not feel, it actually is. And depending how you look at it, that's either its biggest weakness or its greatest strength. So if we divide the game by sections, we have the Rome section, which is probably the most traditional part of the game. It has that classic adventure feeling with artifacts, puzzle, our dears and beloved Pierre Dupont and Larson, and a lighter sense of humor. It feels comfortable, it feels familiar, it feels like Core Design was giving us a more playful side of Lara Croft. And then we have the Russia area with the submarine section, which is a little bit more experimental. It has a stronger espionage feeling with military bases, stealth, a submarine, and a Spear of Destiny. And then we move on to Ireland, which is probably one of the most memorable parts of the game, and probably, I dare to say this, one of the scariest part of the whole franchise. We are playing as young Lara Croft, which has no weapons. The atmosphere is much darker, and the whole section feels almost like a gothic horror. It's eerie, strange, and it's very different from the usual Tomb Raider formula. And then again we have VCI, or Von Croy Industries. Von Croy Industries. Von Croy Industries should be that. Which is probably the most divisive section if we're talking about the fan base. We have Lara in a catsuit, lasers, stealth, gadgets, the introduction of Zip, which I absolutely love Zip, a high-tech corporate building, and it feels like Core Design was trying to give us a Lara into a more modern cinematic, almost like Mission Impossible style. It was super fun to play this section of the game. And again, I think all of these sections being different from one another and being completely different from the whole franchise that we've gotten so far, I think it's actually quite fascinating. So again, the ideas are there, the variety is there, the ambition is there in small pieces, but I still feel like Tomb Raider Chronicles was trapped inside an already old formula. So of course, it also feels like this because the team working on Tomb Raider Chronicles was smaller, and also the team itself was already completely drained of making a Tomb Raider game every single year, and the tight deadline absolutely did not help with the polish of Tomb Raider Chronicles. So that's why I feel it's very hard to talk about Tomb Raider Chronicles and to present it as a good or bad game. It feels very tired, but it's not soulless. You can sense that the franchise was exhausted. And when we compare this game with Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation, and I need to make a disclaimer here, some of you probably already know, but Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation is absolutely my favorite game of the franchise, so bias warned, be warned that I am biased. But I think this is actually important. If we compare Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation with Tomb Raider Chronicles, we can see that the former feels much more ambitious, cohesive, and powerful, whilst Chronicles feels smaller and less essential, even though that the way that they presented the plot is completely different. Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation is actually a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, whilst Tomb Raider Chronicles is fragmented stories told in different timelines. But given that, I cannot say that Tomb Raider Chronicles has no charm, because it absolutely does. And this is where my personal opinion will come in. I had a tremendous amount of fun with Tomb Raider Chronicles, even though I just said that comparing it to the previous release, it feels way smaller and you can sense the fatigue in Tomb Raider Chronicles. Despite all of what I just said negatively, I still enjoyed the hell out of that game. So Tomb Raider Chronicles gives you a very different Tomb Raider experience. And like I've said before, you can experience a little bit of everything in this Tomb Raider game. You can expect a little bit of raiding in the Rome section, you can get military infiltration and a submarine section in Russia, you get a gothic horror in Ireland, and then you get this sci-fi stealth high-tech espionage in the VCI. It may not be the strongest Tomb Raider game, but is one of the most unusual, and because of that, I think every Tomb Raider fan should absolutely experience it. So if you're a player that is expecting Tomb Raider Chronicles to be another huge Tomb Raider game, well, you might be disappointed. If you're playing Tomb Raider Chronicles, be aware that each section makes the game feel a little bit smaller because each section, again, has its own era, its own timeline, and it feels shorter, and they actually are shorter. You have way less levels in this game than you had on all of the previous Tomb Raider games. We ask ourselves, does it work as a standalone Tomb Raider game? Honestly, no. It does not work as a standalone Tomb Raider game. Not for me. It does not. So if you're completely new to the franchise, I would not recommend starting with Tomb Raider Chronicles. It is not the best introduction to Tomb Raider. It does not represent the classic formula at its strongest, and because it is so fragmented, it might give a new player a slightly misleading idea of what the classic series was about. So in my opinion, if you want to start with a classic Tomb Raider, either go with the first one, with the second one, and then obviously I have to say it with Tomb Raider 4. Tomb Raider 3, it's a little bit of a special one because I really like it, but it's too hard. Do not go with Tomb Raider 3 if you're starting the series right now. But if you're already a Tomb Raider fan and you've already played some of the classics, then I think Chronicles is a must, because it is so much different. And also, right now, Chronicles is included in the 4 to 6 remaster collection, so if you buy that collection, you have the game already anyways. Just remember to go into the game with the right expectations. Now comes the part where I think a lot of people don't actually know. We need to talk about the biggest legacy that Tomb Raider Chronicles gave its fanbase, and it was Tomb Raider Level Editor. One of the most important things connected to Tomb Raider Chronicles is that the PC version shipped with the official level editor, and that ended up becoming one of the most important gifts that Core Design ever gave fanbase. Even if Chronicles itself is probably the weakest of the classic games, the level editor helped keep the classic Tomb Raider alive for decades, up until now. So Level Editor is essentially the engine given to fans so that they have the freedom to create whatever they want. You want to create a room with nothing? Yeah, sure, you can use Level Editor. You want to create a very complex, story-driven game? Yeah, you can do that with Level Editor. You want to just do a small level very easy? Yeah, you can do that with Level Editor. Level Editor or TRLE.net has thousands upon thousands of levels created by a lot of people that you can try by yourself. And I dare to say that maybe a few of them are actually better than the classic Tomb Raider games. So in a way, Tomb Raider Chronicles was indeed the end of the classic era. It gave us a tool to preserve and keep alive the classic Tomb Raider spirit for much longer than anyone probably ever expected. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. So, what is Tomb Raider Chronicles? That if you reach this part of the video, you might ask yourself, if you never played Chronicles, obviously, what is Tomb Raider Chronicles after all? Again, for me, it's not one of the best Tomb Raider classic games. It's not the most ambitious, not the most polished, and you can clearly see the fatigue of the team making the game, but it's one of the most unexpected, fun, and different Tomb Raider games out there. Tomb Raider Chronicles represents a series that was too successful to stop, was also too exhausted to continue in the same way, and in a way it was not quite ready to move forward. It is a goodbye to the classic PlayStation era. It is a bridge to Angel of Darkness and PlayStation 2, and it is a strange collection of Lara Croft's memories. And despite all of its problems, Tomb Raider Chronicles still has a lot of personality. It still has memorable moments, it still has that old core design charm, and most importantly for me, it is incredibly fun for being very different. And that for me, it matters. Sometimes we analyze games too much, we focus on the development, on the sales, on the reception, but the most important question that you should ask yourself as someone who has played the game, did you have fun? And the answer for me with Tomb Raider Chronicles is yes, I had a tremendous amount of fun playing it. However, again, I need to be critical, and I would not recommend a new player coming into this franchise, even if you already played one of the survival games or if you played one of the Loud trilogy games and you want to try classic, Tomb Raider Chronicles is not the one you should start with. But if you're already a fan, and if you already understand the classic Tomb Raider formula and you want to experience something different and you have the remaster collection, play Tomb Raider Chronicles. You will enjoy the game quite a lot. So Tomb Raider Chronicles may only exist because of business pressure, but the final game absolutely has its own personality. So Tomb Raider Chronicles, it's somewhat of a weird farewell to the classic era, but I'm actually glad that exists. I actually asked the community here on YouTube and on my Discord server what the game means to them, and here's what they had to say. So Zelgadis, I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name, by the way, this is probably one of my favorite Tomb Raider content creators on YouTube. He says, I get the disappointment from Chronicles feeling like a filler episode or an expansion to Tomb Raider 4 rather than a full-fledged entry. But for me, it always felt like a breath of fresh air thanks to its changing environments. One of my viewers even said that Rome feels like a tribute to Tomb Raider 1, Russia to 2, Ireland to 4, Cambodia, and New York to Tomb Raider 3, and I couldn't agree more. It was a nice farewell to the classic games engine as we all eagerly waited for the next gen AUG, not yet knowing how it will turn out. Igor Von Chanchin, oh my god, I'm going to die trying to say your guys' names, I'm so sorry, says, I definitely recommend playing Tomb Raider Chronicles. It's not as good as Tomb Raider 3, but it has good stories, very original and somewhat surreal. Core also contributed good stories and good music. Mo says, I remember playing Tomb Raider 5 when I was in school and then in college. One time during a summer break holiday, I did a marathon of classic Tomb Raider games, where I played through Tomb Raider 1 all the way to Tomb Raider 5. Good times. Overall, Tomb Raider 5 is a good game. Definitely short, but I still think it matters just as much as any Tomb Raider game because it provides some answers to questions that a lot of people probably had after playing Tomb Raider 4, especially with regards to the Iris artifact and answers regarding Lara's fate, which was addressed towards the end, and it leads nicely into Tomb Raider 6. McJoe Ferg says, it's actually not such a bad game. My first playthrough was on the remasters and after 4, which which felt way too long and confusing. It was fun to play something more linear. First half, Rome and base submarine was genuinely great. Isadora Costa says, I played it when I was 8, and the level with demons and ghosts still really scares me to this day, at the age of 31. I tried playing it several times, but I always ended up quitting when I reached that part. Jesus Cardoso says, to understand the timeline of the events is really difficult. I remember when I played it for the first time, I understood nothing about the events of the game. ... And then Half Cold says, I enjoyed that game too, it was my first Tomb Raider game. Also, I've replayed Tomb Raider Chronicles on stream here on YouTube, so if you are interested in watching me replaying the game after 10 years or more, you can go ahead and go to the channel, and on the stream section you will find all of my streams so far there, and Tomb Raider Chronicles is there. Although I have to say that the quality of the videos were not the best because I was starting to stream and I did not have a webcam, sometimes the audio was a little bit weird, but after a while I managed to fix most of those stuff, so it's actually watchable. So lads and lasses, raiders, friends, people, if you've reached the end of this video, I really do appreciate you a lot. And this is actually all I have to say about Tomb Raider Chronicles, and again, I keep saying, if you're a new player, I do not recommend you going Tomb Raider Chronicles. But if you want to do, well, go with the right expectations. But if you're a fan and you want to experience something different, then Tomb Raider Chronicles, in my opinion, it's a game for you. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening, and see you on the next one. Bye.